This is our second day in Paris on our European tour, October 2009. And of course I've explained that we stayed at this awful hotel, Criade, in a dog box room. Here's an image of the centre of Paris with all the attractions. All the people came down and got onto the Trafalgar bus, and then we struck the traffic on the way to our first attraction, which was the Arc de Triomphe, and we drove into the access road and then into the circle. Most people would recognise the Arc de Triomphe as one of the highlights of the French Tour de France bike race. This building was commissioned by Napoleon to celebrate one of the victories of his campaigns in around 1800s. Commemorates the French Revolution, Napoleonic Wars and other French victories, all inscribed on the outer surface, and beneath the vaults lies the tomb of the unknown soldier for World War I. 12 streets surround the Arc of the Stars, and here is one of two entrances to avoid the traffic in the circular street. Then we went and visited the Eiffel Tower, and the Eiffel Tower was built in 1889 or thereabouts to commemorate the centennial of the French Revolution. And it was basically the centrepiece of the World Trade Fair in 1889, and it impressed everybody in the world and symbolised French know-how in industrial genius. It was built by a company called Eiffel. Gustave Eiffel was the owner of the company, and he rejected the first plan. It took about 300 workers 2 years to build and put together, and in cold weather, like most erect structures, it shrinks 6 inches. Amazingly, only one person was killed during the construction of this tower. The tower was only supposed to stand for 3 years, but then they realised the advantages of it as a communication tower, and as long as they painted every 7 years, they expect it to last forever. It has 3 levels, and one of them has a restaurant on it. We only went to the first level, I think. And of course we can't go anywhere without some selfies. For some reason it's considered a place of devotion and love. Many people come here to propose underneath the arc of the Eiffel Tower. The tower has been in a number of films, including some James Bond movies and Alex Guinness movies. When you look at it from a distance, it just looks like a tower, but when you get in underneath on the second floor, after you walk up the steps, you can see the technical detail of the building and the tower. Here's a few views of over the side and the city of Paris. this beautiful garden. We never got time to walk through the garden. Normally we do walk through gardens. It was quite a lovely day, and we enjoyed our time on the tower. As I said, every 7 years the tower gets painted, and I think it will take 7 years from start to finish to paint the tower. Here's a few photographs of my wife while we were standing taking photographs of the Paris view. Many other communication towers around the world have been copied from the design of the Eiffel Tower. It was so popular. Then we visited the Louvre Museum, and it's most famous for masterpieces like the Mona Lisa and Leonardo da Vinci's Venus de Milo. It was built or established in 1793 or thereabouts when it was completed, and it's the world's most largest art museum and history museum. I think it's got about 70 rooms, but we obviously never went and visited that many of the rooms. And as I said, there's 35,000 pieces of art and 380,000 objects on display in this place. It's free to get into the Louvre Museum. The glass pyramid built in the quadrangle of the Louvre was initially just a redesign to let some light in to the building, but has become an icon in itself. The glass pyramid was commissioned in 1981 by the then President Mitterrand. So here's some photographs of the Venus de Milo, sculptured by Leonardo da Vinci, one of the most famous icons in the world, I think. And we had some selfies in front of it, but if you get up close to it, it's typical marble, and the fine features make it very beautiful, and with the background of marble walls even made it stand out even more. Everybody says that she's quite beautiful, but I find her just average myself. And then we found this big hallway full of light from the glass roof, and it's also full of all the most famous paintings in the world, including some statues. So we had a bit of a walk around there, and in amongst all this, somewhere, I can't remember whether it was in this part, but there was the Last Supper. And of course the Last Supper included Jesus in the centre, and Bartholomew from left to right, James, Andrew, Peter, John, Jesus, Thomas, James, Philip, Matthew, Poseidus and Simon. And of course We found the Mona Lisa way back in the distance on a far wall, and we took a couple of photographs of that. And unfortunately some of the photographs had the reflection of the sunlight or the lights, so I had to get the right angle to get a good picture of it. We found this wonderful gallery called Apollon Gallery, and it was absolutely gorgeous, so I spent a bit of time videoing it. It's very, very similar to Michelangelo's gallery in the Vatican City in Rome. Something I wasn't aware of, but this gallery was not always a gallery, it was actually a reception hall of the palace built by Louis the 19th. It was decorated even back then with the greatest artists of French history. Although we were running out of time because we were on a guided tour, we got to see some of the other exhibits, including this Sphinx, and we took some photographs of it. Then underground there was a display of the original Louvre castle, established as a defensive fortress in 1190 by King Philip Auguste, and this was built to defend itself against the invasion of England, rebuilt in the 16th century, and that's when it actually became the Royal Palace. This is the inverted pyramid, one of 5 of the pyramids built in the Louvre, and this one hangs from the ceiling. Some of the members of our tour bus stuck their finger underneath it to hold up the pyramid, and spent a bit of time doing selfies and portraits of this glass pyramid structure underground. And here's a photograph of the main pyramid on the outside of the building, which is inspired by the Giza pyramid in Egypt. Then we got back on the bus and we visited the Notre Dame Cathedral, which was built on the ruins of 2 other churches, and initially the cathedral was initiated by Maurice de Sully, a bishop of Paris, and that was in around 1160, and it was originally one building and built on the ruins of 2 old basilicas, and the foundation stone was obviously laid by the Pope Alexander III and was consecrated 20 years later. It's been extended a number of times, right through until the 1860s or thereabouts. And if you slowly go through the next video, you'll see the history of each of the rebuilds. You can pause them, but you can't quite read the writing on it. But it was interesting to just look at the actual manner in which it was rebuilt. There was a model that we took some video of the Cathedral of Notre Dame, and it was a wooden model, of course, and it was quite lovely, sealed in a glass case. Then it was time to return to the hotel dog box, the hotel, to rest and have a meal and then sleep, and then the next day we headed from Paris to Bordeaux. The video was produced by myself. It's the end of another exciting video of day 2 in Paris on our European tour, October 2009.